Philip Kennedy Johnson and Marco Finnegan set 007 on a personal mission as one of James's closest friends and allies turns up dead, dragging him into a conspiracy that stretches all across the globe. Philip Kennedy Johnson jumps over to Dynamite to weave some of the magic we've seen him weave in Aliens and Action Comics, and this time apply it to James Bond, beginning a new era for the spy, beginning with a snappy to the point issue that sets up the plot pretty well, leaving enough of the mystery for Bond and the reader to discover along the way, while also carving out its own part in Bond's long and storied history. I enjoyed Bond's early years getting explored very briefly here with the introduction of Gwen Gann, his mentor and love interest, and who is seemingly the woman who really put him on a path to be a cold-blooded killer for England, but one who also helped him find something to live for. Apart from briefly exploring Bond's relationship with Gwen, the overall premise is being kept really mysterious, which I guess is fitting for the spy genre and for a 007 book, and because of it this issue really feels like the stinger opening to one of the Bond films just before the musical credits kick in, meaning next issue is where the real plot takes hold and we get taken into it a little bit more. Marco Finnegan paints the world of 007 with a rare simplicity you don't really often see comics do these days, since they're all about the flashy visuals and keeping the reader's eyes fixed on all of what's happening, and it's just chaos everywhere. So many of these pages were just simply laid out, even going so far as to not have any backgrounds other than a solid colour like white or yellow, bringing all the focus onto the characters, who are also simply designed. Like James has a very simple, everyman look to him, which, given that he's a super secret spy, makes a lot of sense, and his all black suits contrast well with the white and yellow and green backgrounds. 007 issue 1 was a fun beginning to Philip Kennedy Johnson's time on the book. Setting the issue up like the stinger to one of the Bond films was a really cool idea, but I think some might find the mystery surrounding the bits of plot we get this issue a little bit hard to get into, since it really holds back a lot of core details that I imagine will be coming out in the next issue. I'm going to give this issue an 8 out of 10. 007 issue 1 heads to Moscow, where a hacker named Fedor is told to run. The man knows he's nearly finished, but the voice in his ear tells him to leave and go now. Fedor realizes that those who are after him are in the building as he hears someone call his name. He grabs a USB and tries to run, but men with guns stop him, demanding he get down on his knees. One of the men is knocked out and the other is shot in the head by James Bond, who reminds Fedor that he told him to run. More men arrive, firing at the two men who use the office cubicles as cover. James shoots another man in the face as they are cornered in a cubicle. Fedor asks if Bond is going to get him out of there alive, but the spy knows that there is no promises, tossing a squeaky toy at one of the men and distracting him long enough to shoot him and escape with Fedor down the building's stairwell. Even more men wait for them at the bottom, so James takes Fedor up to the top floor, where his gun is shot from his hands by the thug's leader. Bond compliments the clever shot as the men relieve him of his spare weapon on his ankle holster. Bond notices the man in charge is American, not expecting to see one of them there since they are meant to be on the same side. The man knows this isn't about languages or flags, and the world has changed when James wasn't looking. The building's guards arrive and the American says that his people will take it from there. James tells Fedor to go with them and they'll sort out a deal, but the American thinks that it's too late for that, cocking his gun as James tells him that the asset is harder to interrogate if they are dead. The man says they weren't there for Fedor, they were there for James, shooting the hacker in the head. James attacks one of the guards, taking his gun and killing one of the men before shooting the sprinkler above them. Bond shoots out one of the windows and dives from the top floor into the river below. The American orders his men to go after Bond, calling his boss and telling him that he got away. The boss wonders what the man thinks of James, learning that he's capable enough, but he only got lucky and it will surprise him if he makes it out alive. The voice thinks that their recommendation of Bond might have been a good one, wanting the American to keep an eye on him and see where his loyalties really lie. Weeks later, in MI6, Bond is called in to see M, who isn't happy that his asset in Moscow was killed and Bond fell in a river. James defends his choice to jump in the river thanks to being shot at, but M doesn't care, taking him off the field. James knows that the mission was blown before he even got on the plane there, since there were 5 times the usual security along with mercenaries, meaning it was all a setup. M understands ends, but all eyes are on this operation as Fedor would have changed the game for them, and the Prime Minister wants someone held responsible. Bond thinks that he should tell the PM he should feel lucky since one asset is still alive rather than no asset, and there is a well-equipped private outfit out there who thought that they could capture an MI6 agent with impunity, and they even knew him by name. Bond thinks that Fedor was a fool for not listening to him, and this isn't his fault, but M knows that this is all part of the game they play, and Bond has to take it like a good soldier, and he'll be back to pulling triggers and bedding informants in no time. James leaves, knowing that if M throws his flock to the political wolves, he may find they not come back when they are called. James meets with Moneypenny outside, who knows the meeting with M didn't go well, but James jokes about enjoying the ritual lashings he gets, revealing that he has been shelved. Eve acts shocked, wondering if it's Tuesday already, but James tells her that he may not be around until next Tuesday. Eve asks where he's going, but Bond knows for starters he's going to go home, but from there he hasn't decided. James heads to his apartment and drowns his sorrows in whiskey, and 1 week later he gets a call from a number he recognizes. He answers the call of Gwendolyn Gann, who reveals that she is back in the game now. James asks whose team she's playing on, but the woman reveals that it's something bigger than MI6 and she needs James's help. James agrees to meet her as Gwen tells him not to let anyone at MI6 know. James heads out to meet Gwen, remembering when he became the new 007 and met Gwen for the first time when she was 003. James had heard of her reputation, but Gwen hopes he hadn't heard too much. James says that he knows that she was a true believer in their country and is a crack shot and great fighter. James and Gwen head out on many missions together, with Gwen acting as James's trainer. James didn't think that 00s needed extra training, but Gwen reminds him the day you stop learning and moving forward is the day you die. James arrives at their meeting place, finding Gwen is running late. He watches a boat full of people arrive in the bay near him as he remembers when Gwen reminded him that he needs to make his time in this job worth it. He sees the boat of men pull a body from the river, knowing that it's Gwen, so he heads to her apartment. Gwen thinks to die for money is sad and she won't die for a job, and believing in Queen and Country gets damn hard to believe in. James finds Gwen's apartment has been ransacked, wondering what they were looking for as he remembers Gwen used to always write down poetry in one of her journals. James never saw the point of it, but Gwen decides to write a few lines for the agent. James finds one of her poetry journals as the American James fought earlier watches him from another building, telling his boss that there isn't anything there that Bond can find, but this is the second time he has stumbled onto them. The boss says that Gwen thought that Bond could have been an asset and she was right, but the American didn't care for Gwen, not wanting to expose Bond to their London operation. The boss tells Mr. Rook to kill Bond as James finds the entry in Gwen's journal for him dated to that very day, mentioning something called Project MYRMIDON.